This is Mrs. Murphy here at Weber State University, and I'm going to show you how to use random numbers. We're going to go over random numbers and show you a little bit more in depth on how to use some if statements. Now, sometimes when you're coding, it's nice to have a random number generator. Maybe you're simulating rolling a dice or some other random variant in your program. So a random value is just that, some random number. Unfortunately, computers can't really come up with random numbers. They can't really think that way. So what we do is we give them an algorithm, and it returns a value that's seemingly random to us humans. Now, in this class, we're not going to code the algorithm. We're just going to simply use a random number generator to give us a random number. Now, we already have the random generator in your mycode file, so you don't have to add it. It just creates a variable called generator of type random. Now, the random object is in one of the libraries called java.util. The nextInt method is what allows you to assign a random value to a variable. Uses a range of numbers and a starting value to determine what the random number might be. So let's say you're coding a dice program. Well, most dice have 6 sides, so our range would be 6. The start would be 1, so it would be any number between 1 and 6. Now suppose we wanted a random number between 60 and 70. I don't know why I thought of 60 and 70. Because I'm human, I can think of random numbers like that. Anyway, so, well, your range from 60 to 70, that's 10 numbers. So your range is going to be 10, and your start is going to be 60. Okay, little review on if statements. The statement inside the brackets are executed if the condition is true. So in this example, if the iForce variable has value less than 10, the message is going to say Jedi hopeful. You can also add an else clause to your if statement. So an else clause is just going to execute when the if statement is not true. So in this case, we have the same if statement. If it's less than 10, you have Jedi hopeful. But if it's anything higher than 10, it's going to give the message Jedi Knight. An else if statement is just like a bunch of if-else messages all connected together in one statement. In this situation, it's going to check the conditions in order. If the first statement is not true, it'll check the second and then the third. If none of the statements are true, it'll run the else message that displays Jedi Knight. So this type of conditional structure executes just the first true statement. Not all of the statements get executed. So for example, if the iForce is set to 5, it would set the variable to Jedi hopeful and not even check Padawan or master. So now here I have two examples that differ just by a single word. On the right we have a series of two if statements. On the left we have an if-else structure. The only difference in these two examples is the word the else. The outcome of these two structures can be different though, so you got to kind of watch out. Suppose this program is to determine snake eyes and the person rolls double ones. So die 1 is 1 and die 2 is 1. On the right, with the series of if statements, it would execute both statements, since both statements are true in the case of snake eyes. Therefore, the variable count would get 1 added to it twice, so it would end up being the value of 2. Now, remember the if-else structure on the right-hand side only executes the first true statement. Even though both conditions are true, the variable count would only add up 1 time because it only checks the first true statement. Now we've already done a little bit of talking about the difference between and or. In Java, you have the same thing. You can combine Boolean statements using the and or operator. The or operator has 2 bars. The bars are those little straight lines on the keyboard right above the enter key. You press shift and then press that bar twice. The and operator is 2 ampersands. I probably don't need to show you where this one is, but I already have the keyboard graphics, so I may as well put in my little animation for PowerPoint. So now if you remember, or executes when one of the statements is true, and the and executes when both expressions are true. So given a dice program, say we have an if statement that wants to see if a dice has the value 7 or 11. Maybe it's 2 dice or something like that. So we can use the or to test that. We combine the 2 Boolean expressions and say, well, if the dice is 7 or if the dice value is 11, then you have craps or whatever the game is called. So now on the and side, we're trying to determine if they have snake eyes, and if both values are 1. So we use the AND block. If dice 1 is 1 and dice 2 is 1, then we have snake eyes. Otherwise, it executes false and goes on to whatever else is in your code. Okay, hopefully you have a little better understanding on how AND and OR and random numbers work, and you'll be able to get the homework assignment done.